The movie starts at an adult pool party. The young men and women wrap their bodies around each other while they dance and kiss. Unbeknownst to them, there are two young boys scoping out the place for some anatomical treasures. One of those boys is Philip, or Philly. He is the only son of a wealthy businessman, so he has grown to be a little rowdy and spoiled. These days, he and his friend frequently get into trouble because of their habit of spying on women. Even their school teacher cannot properly guide Philly to the right path because while she lectures him, he is too busy staring at her legs. One summer break, Philly's father leaves town on an extended business trip, leaving his son to be cared for by a housekeeper named Nicole and the family's chauffeur, Lester. Lester is respectful of Philly's dad and faithfully does his job, but when he leaves for the business trip, he undermines Philly because of his young age and begins acting more arrogant and carefree. Because of his attitude, Philly is not too fond of him. He isn't very fond of Nicole either, but that doesn't stop him from lusting after her body. He is also caught trying to look up her skirt once, but storms off in embarrassment when Nicole teases him about it. One day, Nicole asks Lester to take her shopping, and Philly patiently watches them drive away. When the car reaches out of sight, Philly grabs his camera and dashes towards Nicole's room. Then he sneakily rummages through her drawers to look for her undergarments. Nicole, on the other hand, is still in the car with Lester. It seems that there is something more going on beneath the surface, as Lester talks about their plan to seduce Philly while his father is away. Although she had agreed to it before, Nicole starts feeling hesitant about seducing a 15-year-old boy, but Lester won't let her back out so easily. As the days pass, Philly's infatuation with Nicole grows stronger and stronger. Day and night, he spies on her through the window with a camera or binoculars to capture her naked body. Nicole sees through all his antics and does not give him the chance to catch her undressed, but she does not discourage this behavior either. One day, after having enough of Philly's spying, Nicole directly invites him inside her room. She is very straightforward and asks if he would like to see her undress. Although he is a little awkward and nervous, he doesn't hide his desire and simply says yes. After ordering him to close the door, Nicole makes him sit down on a chair and slowly starts undressing. She starts with her dress and puts on a seductive show, taking off her stockings and then her bra until she is left only in her underwear. Seeing Philly so flustered, she gives a satisfied smile and asks if he wants to pet her puppies. But he is too shy to do so and asks Nicole to just continue undressing. After the last article of clothing is on the floor, she stands fully naked in front of him, which makes Philly too flustered to function properly since all of his blood has gathered somewhere else, so he ends up awkwardly bolting out of the room. Next morning, Philly runs to his friend's house to brag about what happened the night before. He gives out every detail with a smug smile on his face while his friend enviously listens to his story. His friend gets a little annoyed because Philly didn't touch Nicole even when she was willing to get naked right before him. So he starts encouraging Philly to touch her next time and gives explicit advice on how to touch and grab a woman. Later the same day, Nicole tries to dispel the awkwardness between her and Philly, but he insists that he doesn't feel awkward, so she once again invites him to visit her at night. That night, she is not in her room, but in his father's bathtub. She is completely naked, of course, with only the soap bubbles covering the important parts of her body. Making use of Philly's attraction to her, she starts seducing him again and asks if he would like to wash her back. As he nervously agrees, Nicole takes this opportunity to bring his hand to her front and makes his hand rest on her whoopee cushions. Taking things a step further, she also invites him into the bathtub with her. Philly is just a naive teenager despite his habit of leering at women, so he is easily embarrassed. He objects at first, but Nicole keeps sweet-talking until he gives in. Still, he is unwilling to fully undress, so he gets in the tub with his swimming trunks on. Nicole seats him in front of her and begins touching his body. She is eager to get his swimming trunks off, and Philly agrees on the condition that they turn off the lights. But even in the dark, bathing with a woman while naked is too much for him. He panics and stumbles out, eager to take his tadpole out of the pond. Nicole follows right after him as she doesn't want to leave so early. She sweetly apologizes to coax him and asks if she could give him a goodnight kiss at least. As soon as he agrees, she passionately captures his mouth and starts escalating things further. She directly invites him to sleep with her, but is rejected once again. Philly is itching to tell his friend everything that happened, so the next day, he wastes no time to go to his friend's house again. His friend has a habit of bad-mouthing women, and Philly always used to join along with his insults, but somehow he cannot stand Nicole being insulted. His friend teases him about it and says he is starting to fall for her. Acting on his growing affection for Nicole, one night Philly decides to take her out on a movie date. They have a pretty good time and make out inside the car while they are on their way back. When they get back home, Philly gets a call from his father. Nicole flirts with him as he talks to his father, and on the other side of the call, Philly's father is also flirting with a woman on his bed. The call ends and the two of them go back to Nicole's bedroom. She is in a hurry to strip Philly's clothes, but he has something to say before they sleep together. He clarifies that he doesn't think of her as a loose woman and that he respects her. He is even ready to marry her. Hearing him talk about marriage, it is now Nicole's turn to get flustered. She carefully explains to him that people should only get married when they love each other and want to raise a family together. Seeing her not reacting positively as he expected her to, Philly gets angry as he believes that Nicole only sees him as a silly little kid. He storms out of the room, slamming the door shut on his way out. When he goes to vent his troubles to his friend ends up mocking him instead. This makes Philly realize that asking someone to marry him after the first date was a stupid thing to do. He goes back home to apologize to Nicole for his behavior, and she easily forgives him. After they reconcile, they make plans for another date. This time it is a dinner at a French restaurant. All throughout the date, the two of them cannot keep their hands off of each other, kissing and fondling with no regards to the people around them. As soon as they get back home, they start stripping down and get ready for an intimate night together. Things are going great when all of a sudden, Nicole stops breathing. Philly runs away in a panic to call Lester for help. Lester rushes in to check her body and states that she is dead. He accuses Philly of killing her, then picks up the phone to call the police. Frightened by the turn of events, Philly begs him not to call them. Lester reluctantly agrees and makes a plan to bury her dead body in the garden. He lets Philly do all the digging as he arrogantly stands aside. After the hole is dug, the two of them put Nicole's body inside a bag and drag her to the garden. Philly sobs all the way through her burial and gently places some flowers on top of the soil before walking back into the mansion. But Philly's troubles are not yet solved because the very next morning, he goes out to see that someone has dug out Nicole and her body has disappeared overnight. He runs to Lester again, who chides him, thinking that it is one of Philly's pranks. While he panics, Lester's attitude is very laid back and casual. As Philly is racking his brain trying to think of what to do next, he gets a note that threatens to reveal Nicole's death to the police unless he gives them $10,000. Left with no other choice, Philly sneaks into his father's room to steal the money from his safe, but he is a little hesitant to steal such a large amount of money, but Lester manages to convince him that it is better than letting the police find out about Nicole. After helping Philly steal the money, Lester goes back to his own house where Nicole is waiting for him. After successfully faking her death, she is now feeling regretful for making Philly go through all of this, but she has no choice on this matter because Lester is blackmailing her. On top of being an illegal immigrant, she has also slept with Philly, who is a minor. Despite his threats, Nicole sneaks out at night to visit Philly. He is shocked to see her still alive, but when the shock wears off, he is left angry and upset. She sincerely apologizes and reveals everything. She's even ready to go to the police to atone for her actions, but Philly stops her. Despite being upset, he still loves her and doesn't want her to get arrested. Instead, he asks for her help to get the $10,000 back from Lester, to which she readily agrees. The two of them hatch a plan together. They ask Philly's tennis instructor to act as a police officer and give Lester a visit. Lester likes to act tough, but he is easily scared. He sees the tennis instructor posing as a police officer and gets frightened. The fake policeman interrogates him about Nicole's disappearance, and Lester plays innocent while making up some lies about her quitting to go on a vacation. But the fake police officer is too intimidating for him to deal with. The officer threatens to lock him in prison for homicide and states that he will be back in 2 hours. So Lester better have proof that Nicole is still alive by then. After the officer leaves, Lester quickly goes to the hotel where he had instructed Nicole to stay, but it turns out that she has already checked out a long time ago. With no other method left to prove his innocence, Lester decides to run away with the money. He gets back home and swiftly packs his bags, takes all the money, and escapes in his car. Philly, his friend, and Nicole also decide to go to Philly's house to catch Lester red-handed. Unfortunately, none of them know how to drive, but the friend bravely takes control of the steering wheel. Clumsily driving through the roads, they finally reach Philly's mansion, but Lester is already gone. They quickly switch cars and ask the gardener to go after Lester. The tennis instructor, who is now deeply immersed in his role as a police officer, also chases after Lester to the airport. As Lester runs to board his flight in order to flee the country, he bumps into Philly's father. Philly, Nicole, and the police officer also arrive at that moment. Philly's father is confused to see the people around him behaving so weirdly, but he dismisses it and orders Lester to carry his bags back to the mansion. Philly also steps forward, acting like a good, helpful child, and offers to carry Lester's bag for him. Since the bag carries all the money, Lester is reluctant to hand it over to Philly, but he is helpless to refuse in front of the police officer. Philly takes the bag along with Nicole and heads back to his house. They return the money to the safe, but decide not to expose Lester's treachery. In turn, Lester reluctantly decides not to expose Nicole's illegal alien status nor her relationship with Philly. But even after overcoming this incident, Nicole still wants to leave. She and Philly cannot hide their affair from Philly's father, so it is better for her to go before he finds out and fires her. Philly is disappointed to let her leave but doesn't protest. Before she leaves for good, the two make love one last time, despite Nicole now being fully aware it is a felony. But you know what they say, if you let someone shenan once, they will shenan again. The summer break soon ends, and it is time for Philly to return to school again. Over the course of a few weeks, he has matured so much that his teacher has a hard time recognizing him. Philly gives her a smile and smoothly scores a date with her because of his new persona. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.